See, and that's what I'm talking about. It's just drinking.
I was not able to turn myself in. I apologize for that.
Did you call your attorney and say you couldn't make it?
But again, I don't know why it's coming up with that. And I didn't have access any of those days to alcohol or have them in my possession at a no drinking facility. So honestly, I'm telling you, I don't have access to
I'm going to tell you, I'm not believing what she's telling. I just don't think she's going to do what anybody asked her to do.
I can assure you I'll be here on the 1st. I will.
You're just not following through. You don't do what you don't want to do. Well, it doesn't work that way. But at this time, defendant's bond is
we are here for PCC and bond violation. I understand the court has received and reviewed the materials that were sent over yesterday.
I did.
Thank you, Your Honor. The only request that we would have when we're discussing those materials, she is staying in a shelter in Livingston County. There is a separate DV having nothing to do with any of this. And there are some cross allegations in that case. So she's just requesting that we not say the name of the shelter if someone is listening on Zoom to where she's staying.
Understood.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe that the materials that we provided were pretty thorough in terms of where Ms. Brown has been coming from and what her circumstances are in pertaining to the bond violation. So I was wondering if the court had any questions.
Well, I do, because I'm not sure how you provided the materials, but I'm not sure how that relates to the specific allegations of the bond violation. Because what I have, certainly, maybe one might be able to look at the consumption of alcohol, but there was a tampering that occurred for a 12-hour period.
So I am going to let Ms. Brown address that herself with the court. You can explain to him where you're at in terms of the allegation of I had forwarded her the reports the same day. And just so that Your Honor knows, she did intend to turn herself into the jail this morning, but she was unable to get a ride this morning. And so she's here for in-person court this afternoon. So regarding the tamper on 623 and then the positive on 625, the court is looking for either an explanation or an admission as to these two.
Your Honor, I don't have any clue why those were coming up that way. I know that I was called in to community corrections to have my unit replaced for servicing. And when on my way there, Ms. Julian called me and said that she received a notification from courts that I had a tampering and violation that she would, wanted clarification about. And I had no idea what she was talking about. I told her that I was just called in to do a replacement on the unit itself. I have only been at La Casa AA meetings and with AA people because I don't currently have transportation and a license to get myself to and from these places. And I have not had access or been in the environments of drinking whatsoever. The only events outside of AA are AA events that I've been to, such as there was a sober rave in Royal Oak that I'd gone to, but that wasn't even in the dates in question. So I'll stop with that. But I was completely confused. So I had the unit replaced. And while at community corrections, they had told me that I had this tampering and violation 2 counts. And I was in for my reading the week before during this time. And they said that I was all set, good to go. We'll see you next week. And so I was really unsure why I was getting that unless it was due to needing servicing. But I've saying, Your Honor, this is way too important.
Well, hold on a second. Just so that we're clear before you go on with your story.
Okay.
On June 23rd at the 12:56 a.m. time.
Yes, sir.
That's when the tamper is detected.
Okay.
With the unit. On the 25th, there isn't a tamper. It's just drinking.
I don't know why it's coming up with that unless the servicing part of it needed it. At the shelter where I'm currently residing, there's a locked door policy from 11:30 p.m. until 7 in the morning. And I didn't have access any of those days to alcohol or have them in my possession at a no drinking facility. And I was at the facility at both of those.
It was supposed to be just another morning in the county courthouse, where justice was served in neat stacks of paperwork and echoing gavels. But on that day, something different lingered in the air. the tension of arrogance, pride, and the foolish belief that one man could mock the law and walk away smiling. As the courtroom filled with the usual murmur of shuffling feet and whispered gossip, the doors swung open, and in walked the defendant, a young man with a smirk too wide for the occasion and confidence too misplaced for his own good. His name was Ethan Cole, 23 years old, charged with reckless endangerment, disorderly conduct, and contempt of court from his previous outbursts. Yet he didn't look worried. He strutted in wearing a leather jacket instead of a suit, sunglasses still on, as if the courtroom was a movie set and he was the star. He threw a lazy grin at the camera set up by local news, even winked at a woman in the gallery. The bailiff's stern glare didn't bother him. The judge hadn't even entered yet, and already Ethan had made a statement that he wasn't here for justice. He was here for attention. When the clerk called for order and the doors opened again, Judge Marlene Hayes entered. Known for her composure and fairness, she had spent 30 years on the bench and earned a reputation for keeping even the wildest courtrooms in line. But today, as she settled into her seat, she noticed something different in the defendant's posture, that defiant smirk, the rolling eyes, the whispered jokes to his public defender. She adjusted her glasses, took a slow breath, and began. Mr. Cole, she said, her voice calm yet commanding, you stand accused of multiple charges, and you've been given every opportunity to show respect for this court. Do you understand the seriousness of your situation? Ethan shrugged. Yeah, Your Honor. But I think everyone's overreacting. It's not that deep. The courtroom went silent. The judge's pen froze midair. A murmur spread across the benches. But she didn't snap. Not yet. She simply looked at him, eyes cold and unreadable. We'll see about that, she said. Over the next few minutes, the prosecutor presented footage of Ethan's previous arrest, the night he'd gotten drunk, shouted at police officers, and tried to resist arrest while live streaming the whole thing. The video played on the courtroom monitor, showing Ethan yelling into his phone, "They can't touch me. These pigs can't do nothing. I know my rights." The audience shifted uncomfortably. The judge's jaw tightened. When the video ended, Ethan leaned back, arms folded, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "What? You got my good side, at least." The room went dead silent again. Even his attorney whispered, "Ethan, stop talking." But he didn't. He smiled, raised his eyebrows toward the judge, and added, "You know, this whole system's a joke." The judge leaned forward. "Excuse me, Mr. Cole. Would you care to repeat that?" "Yeah, I said this system's a joke," he replied, still smiling. "You all pretend to care about truth, but everyone's just playing a part." Judge Hayes exhaled slowly. "Mr. Cole, you are already on thin ice with this court. I advise you to watch your words carefully." But Ethan wasn't listening. He laughed, a bold, disrespectful laugh that echoed through the chamber. The bailiff took a step forward. The prosecutor looked furious. The audience exchanged looks of disbelief. What Ethan didn't realize was that his every smirk, every careless word, was digging his own grave, not just legally, but morally. The judge had seen arrogance before, but this was something else, a young man so blinded by pride that he believed he could mock justice itself and win. For the next several minutes, the courtroom became a battle of wills. The defense attorney tried to argue for leniency, claiming Ethan was under stress and didn't mean his behavior, but the judge wasn't convinced. Every time Ethan rolled his eyes or snorted, her patience thinned like glass under pressure. Finally, after another disrespectful remark, "Maybe you should lighten up, Your Honor," Judge Hayes slammed her gavel so hard that even the camera shook. "Enough," she declared, her voice sharp and controlled. "Mr. Cole, I will not tolerate further disrespect. One more outburst, and you will be held in contempt." The courtroom went silent again. For the first time, Ethan looked uneasy, his smirk flickering. But that moment of clarity vanished as quickly as it came. He leaned back and whispered, "Whatever." And that was the moment the judge knew, this wasn't just about punishment. It was about teaching a lesson that arrogance cannot coexist with justice. She turned to the clerk and said, "Bring in the next witness." The trial had officially begun, but Ethan had already lost something far greater than his case. He had lost the judge's trust, and once that's gone, the fall is inevitable.